Hey YouTube. I I made this video last night, but I looked back and it's just I don't want to come off as this angry person who constantly gets cranky about Wiccan subjects. But the thing is that it's really hard for me to separate my passion from what's going on in our world right now, because I see a lot of people coming into, like, they want to do witchcraft, but I usually say I recommend Wicca because it's structured, and then you can go off and do what you like. Usually when I say things like I recommend Wicca, I don't mean come into Wicca and change everything about it. You're not a pioneer in religion. You're not a trendsetter. None of you. I'm not. You're not. No one else is. No one on TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, whatever website current year is looking at, no one here is that innovative that their ideas can change an entire way people have been practicing a certain religion for the last 70 years. And previously, before it was called Wicca. And those who follow me know that when I talk about witchcraft, I'm talking about Wicca, because Wicca was witchcraft before it was bastardized and watered down to be something totally different than what witchcraft is today. Witchcraft used to be a religion, but now we've separated that, so people don't feel guilty about practicing magic without being religious. But here's the thing: if you practice magic without following the religion of the witches, it's okay to just say you're a magician. But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there today. That's not what this video is about. This video is about, I mean, you read the title, the threefold law, and harm none, do it ye well. I see a lot of people, when they talk about the threefold law, they try to interpret it. And here's the thing: when it comes to Wicca and the threefold law isn't up for discussion. That is one of the most sacred rules. It's one of the only doctrine we have. It's the only written law we have, besides elder tree is the ladies burn it or burn it and cursed shall be. This is the only set rule we have in our religion, and it's echoed throughout all types of religions. It's the same rule as do unto your neighbor what you would have do unto you. And I don't know why people are trying to bastardize and question this rule, which is plain and simple: don't hurt people with your magic. I understand trauma, I understand passion and being in the moment. I'm not a fool. But there are other ways to go about life than using magic in a baneful way or in a way that harms other people. There's other ways of going about life. Revenge, just to me, I want to say we are the keepers of our own fate. And I don't know if things are predestined. I don't want to get philosophical like that. We control our own fate. And that is by mere definition, that law wrapped in one. If you are going to do harm, you are going to get harm done back to you. It's going to come back to you. And that is you saying, I'm okay with this consequence. If you break that law, you're okay with the consequence. If you steal, you have to be okay to be charged with a crime. If you murder someone, you have to be okay with going to the gas chamber. People want to dance around magic and go, I believe it means this. No, we're talking about harming someone with magic. There's going to be a consequence. For every action, there is a consequence. I've turned on the light, it's light now. If I don't pay my electricity bill, the lights don't come on. If I leave a candle unattended, there's the potential that the consequence could be that my house burns down. For every action, there is a consequence. So, well, people will go, well, what's the consequence of doing a healing spell? Well, the consequence, I would say, of a healing spell is that I've lost one candle, one incense cone, a handful of bay leaves. That's the consequence. What's the consequence of a hex? But what about unintentional harm? Like unintentional harm, like I said, if I forget to put on my seatbelt and a cop sees that I'm not wearing my seatbelt, whether it was intentional or not, there is going to be a consequence there. I don't understand people who want to dance around this rule and tell baby witches and newcomers to this path that the threefold law means something different to everyone. No, the threefold law to the person who created the religion, okay, if we talk about Wicca and not the religion of witchcraft, 70 years ago, when Gerald Gardner introduced it back to the United Kingdom, the law was, and it harm none, do what ye will. I don't understand where people think there's an interpretation to be had there. It's plain and simple. Harm no one, and you can do what you like. And then you've got people who say, well, if you're doing an employment spell, you could be taking that job away from someone who needs it. But if you believe that life is predestined, you're supposed to have that spell to get that job. Or, for instance, perhaps this wasn't the job for them anyway, right? There is a lot of people who will say, well, what about this? I'm telling you, there's no loophole around and it harm none, do what you will. Using an employment spell to get a job that you've worked really hard for is not harmful magic. Okay? Because if you think about it, with Wicca, a lot of us in our spells use for the goodwill of all. Usually that sets a universal, this is for the goodwill of all. This is not to harm anyone, So I want to go extreme. I want to tell people for instance, there's no loophole around murder. That's a law. You murder someone, you go to jail. If you harm someone, expect it to return to you in threefold. I don't think it'll come back to you 3 times as bad. What I think is that it's mind, body, and spirit. Right? So the trauma of it will get your mind. Your spirit will take a toll. It'll take a chunk of that with you to your next life. And the body, of course, if you've wished harm on someone, to get a cold. Maybe you get meningitis. Who knows? I don't think it's 3 times like you wish for them to get a cold. Now you've got VD, you know, polio or something. But what I'm saying is that there's no loophole around murder. So there's no loophole around and it harm none. People who say, well, I'm Wiccan and I don't follow threefold law, then maybe Wicca isn't for you, because Wicca focuses on a set of principles, and it harm none is one of the big ones. That's like saying, I'm a Christian, but I don't believe in thou shalt not kill. Once again, I'm going to it again. Wicca is an organized religion with principles, and if you can't follow those principles, then perhaps Wicca is not for you. You may call what you do Wicca, you may follow every other Wiccan principle and it harm none, but you will never follow true Wicca until it is and it harm none. I am very sorry if this hurts your feelings. If you have practiced Wicca, well, you practice magic under the guise of Wicca and ignored and it harm none for 30 years. I'm sorry if that hurts you and judges you, but I'm old school. Like you need to know that I was trained by a Gardnerian, and it harm none. There was no dancing around it. There's no interpretation, there's no alternative explanation, and it harm none, do what ye will. My teacher said to me, think what you like, do what you like, but if you harm someone, Goddess is going to turn her back. And because she's turned her back, the consequences that the universe in turn give to you are of your own doing. There's no dancing around. And people go, well, I've done baneful magic for years and I've never had anything happen to me. Really? You can't explain like I don't know, maybe you got a speeding ticket one day, or maybe you had a really bad day, or maybe you got a paper cut or something, you know. There's things, you're just ignoring it because your interpretation is to choose to ignore it. If you ignore it, it's not happening. If you ignore the consequence, it's not happening to you. Therefore, confirming your confirmation bias. This is going into 13, 14 minutes. I'll reiterate. And let me take a sip of my Coca-Cola. And it harm none, do what you will. There's no interpretation. It is what it is. If you don't like it, then Wicca, maybe not for you. And people will probably get upset with this, but people misinterpret what I say a lot, so I'm not surprised people misinterpret this one fucking law we have. Blessed be, people. Love, peace, and applesauce.